So before we start, I'm going to give you a few words about ADN and what we are trying to achieve. So ADN is a company specialized on compliance for IT system and now for digital trend. Of course, we provide services regarding compliance for ERP system, LIMS system, let's say a classic system. But now we have also an intensive activity regarding agile, DevOps, PLM also for the medical device people. We have a webinar next week on the cloud PLM. PLM means product lifecycle management. It's more for medical device companies. And today the purpose is to talk about robotic process and cognitive automation, or digital worker. As probably many of you are already working for the pharma or life science industry since a couple of years, or perhaps so for some of you, couple of decades. And this life science industry is still very document centric, even there's some big initiative on digitalization and a lot of computerized system, but there's still a lot of document to manage and handle. So the purpose of this webinar that will be animated by Cyril Galbrin and Yawen van den Bosch will be to introduce RPA and RCA and talk about and to see a little bit the challenges regarding compliance to implement this kind of technologies on the life science area. So I'm going to give the virtual speaker to Cyril. And this Cyril is going to start with an introduction to what is RPA and RCA, just perhaps for the people who are not yet aware about this trend. So Cyril, now it's your turn. If you would like to start.
Okay. Hello everybody. Welcome to our webinar on robotic process and cognitive automation for life sciences. Today's agenda is separated in, as Philippe just said, an introduction to what is automation and what is also artificial intelligence, how it's been already started to be implemented and thought in the life sciences. After, we will show you a business case in pharmacovigilance we have developed to express and to show what kind of task can be eligible for automation and cognitive artificial intelligence in the pharmaceutical industry. And after, we'll think about the different topics and about the way to implement and validate those new tools in those industries. So let's start with the introduction and from some context. I think it's not a surprise for you if I told you that we are noticing in all businesses, sectors, and industries an increase of repetitive and administrative tasks, and also complexification of the process, resulting of increase of regulatory or compliance constraints, but also the fact that our tools, systems, and our departments are often disconnected and work in silos. And this situation degrades elements that we will rather optimize, like the quality, agility, efficiency, and also the better the best use of our resources, and this also leads to increase of workloads, cycle times that have an impact on production, or also different risks and costs, like, for example, fines for non-compliance. There is a solution to manage those repetitive and tasks, is to use a technology called robotic process automation. It's a technology based on software robots called bots, and it allows to automate tasks. It works at the user interface level and imitates and repeats the action of some workers. It's based on instruction and rules. The processes are sequenced in different tasks eligible for this automation. This technology can be easily implemented without coding, using some creation tools that can, for example, include desktop or online recorders, such as, for example, the one you're using to record a macro code in an Excel spreadsheet. But it's helps to have your everyday action being transformed into automated task. This technology is also non-invasive because it does not replace existing technologies, but it creates new relation between them and allow the workers to be affected on new tasks. But we can also point out some limits of the RPA. For example, some tasks are requiring business experts, for example, for understanding some data for this assessment, or for a lot of how you say that, for a lot of tasks that it needs some kind of thinking that is not possible by a bot that is only deterministic and based on rules. And also another blind spot is the access to some information, because in all systems we use only a small part of the data is called can be called as structured data. 80% needs actions relied on humans, and we can call that a dark data, made with semi-structured data and unstructured data. Structured data is the one we are using in database, online form, and spreadsheets. But the semi-structured is more like data logs or paper-based forms, and the unstructured are more with emails, pictures, video, voice, but also social network recordings. To be able to access those data, and for the expertise, not needing some kind of thinking behavior, we can use artificial intelligence enhancements to the RPA solution. We called cognitive automation this use of artificial intelligence in both the bots of RPA. Artificial intelligence is the field of information technology where a computer system simulates tasks that normally require human intelligence. And in this use in cognitive automation, the technology is our computer vision, natural language processing, or machine learnings. It allows, for example, to recognize and extract decision by understanding images, or to also understanding the contents of sentences, and the machine learning technology can help to improve the behavior of the bots by learning from experiences and get some expertise. We can also it also includes some fuzzy logic that enrich the extracted data understanding by those tools, and it helped to add some new skills to the RPA bots by allowing to automated processes involving those unreachable semi-structured and unstructured data, and to help build some intelligent behavior models. So using the RPA and CA technologies, we can expect to save time, increase quality, and reduce costs, and also have some valorization of the resources that previously were impacted by the context of repetitive and administrative tasks.
Cyril, may I suggest that we can do a small poll right now?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'm going to launch a small poll regarding the RPA topic, and if you can be kind enough to respond to the poll, I think then we will share the result with all the people. Sorry, with this mix, there's French and English. There's still some people who didn't vote, and if these people can vote, I think it will be appreciated, because then the result will be more significant. Huh? Okay, there perhaps still 1 or 2 people who didn't vote. Okay. So I'm going to close the poll and share with you the result. Okay, so it's a mixed, huh? So there's it's almost 50-50 regarding RPA, and now I'm going to do the same thing with RCA, which is a robotic cognitive automation. If you can please respond. Okay. So of course I see the result, and the results are quite similar to the result that we got 2 months ago. So I'm going to close the poll and share it with you. Yes. Okay. So RCA is a topic where people are less involved yet, probably because they are less comfortable with RCA. Okay. But of course it's coming, because there's a lot of promise regarding robotic cognitive automation, addressing all the dark data that Cyril talked about. Yes. So thank you, Cyril. So perhaps now you can continue, and I have also some other poll that I will share with you during the presentation.
We can notice that the market of robotic process automation rise since the previous years, and you can see the charts in billions of dollars. The market of artificial intelligence has also followed the same kind of increase, but for the use of this tool into robotic automation with the cognitive automation, we just pass from almost nothing to a prediction of a huge opportunity in that area. Let's have a look at how the RPA and the RCA have already been used in life sciences and pharmaceutical industries. The implementation of those technologies can be used in all departments, because the processes with tasks eligible for automation with or without cognitive tools go from research and development, clinical studies, to pharmacovigilance, safety, quality assurance, regulatory affairs, compliance, but also some departments that are not only in the pharmaceutical and life science industries, such as supply chain, manufacturing, IT, documentation, validation, and all the administrative related activities, such as commercial operation, purchase, finance, HR, or legal. And all those tasks, from the simple one, like collecting data, validating, and all kind of monitoring, index or archiving some documents, can all be included in very critical workflow that are starting to be thought out to automate them at some critical points. So those critical workflows are, for example, processing of pharmacovigilance cases, or the constitution of some big files of or documentation required a lot of sources, such as the trial master files in clinical trials, or also the new drug application file. It's also been used for managing the processing of orders and inventory.
Most of people, they start by a non-GXP business case as finance or HR, but now the trend is that to use this kind of technology on GXP business case. And we see more and more business case on GXP area as pharmacovigilance or batch release also. There's a lot of business case coming on the quality core space, because there's a lot of document to review and to check the quality of the document, which is a big challenge in this industry now, of course. Sorry, Cyril.
Do you have any poll at that point of the presentation?
I have some poll, but yeah, perhaps we can try one. Just to confirm that what is the current situation on the industry. So it's okay. So I'm going to close the poem and share. So yes, so there's some people who are working on this area currently. Okay, perhaps if the people working on this area, if we can raise their virtual hand, then we can give you open your mic, and perhaps you can provide us a feedback regarding which area you are trying to do these kind of things. I don't know if somebody is comfortable to share his experience with the other participants regarding AirPA or RCA initiative that is working on. Just please raise your hand, virtual hand on, and then I will open your mic, and then you can discuss with or share. Okay. Okay, perhaps if somebody is no, nobody is willing to share. Okay. Until now, so perhaps we can continue. Cyril.
Okay. So I just for those who just discover the concepts of RPA and RCA, those bots that are based on the rules and instruction to repeat task and just artificial technology to enhance their ability to mimic human decision. Maybe it's easier to show an example. So first, just to make you know that with ADN we are using technologies provided by Automation Anywhere RPA and IQ bots. Those tools allow to create the bots and configure the automation of processes, and the IQ bot is allowing to use artificial intelligence to process documents using computer vision, machine learning, and natural language processing. To deploy those tools, we're using the cloud platform from Amazon Web Services. All those technologies are work-ready, secure, and flexible. That's why we have implemented them to test and experience them. So the business case and proof of concept we are about to present to you is based on the case processing in pharmacovigilance, focusing on the data entry part of the process. We start from an email receiving a PV form, a simplified PV form, and when after receiving this email, the data entry experts should review the form and assess if all informations are included, specifically the mandatory items that make the definition of a PV case fulfilled. For those who are not used to pharmacovigilance, it's the reporting and the gathering and the exploitation of the data regarding the adverse events, and to define a PV case we should have at least a known patient with using a known product and having a known adverse event, and we need also a known reporter. We have simplified the process we may see in the pharmaceutical industry to have it more easy to understand in the webinar with a simplified task. But the idea is, after reviewing the form, which is also a time-consuming task, the data entry experts should book the case, make a process to the data acquisition to check for the duplicate if the case is already in the database. Sometimes the database can provide this solution, but also the system prioritizes and alerts if the case is of interest. If the form does not contain all the data mandatory to create the case, we can reject it, and the data entry expert should reply to the reporter to express that information that are missing. On all this process, the way we have I have presented it to you, we can find eligible tasks for automation, such as downloading, indexing, and archiving the form, including the email. To read the data displayed in the form, we have chosen a form that is an image, not an electronic form, but really an image like we can receive like a scanned document, for example. Among the tasks, the control of the materiality criteria and the decision of accepting or rejecting the forms, replying the email sender, but also generating some kind of narrative with the data, including in the form, and also entering the data in the PV database itself are also tasks that can be automated, and also the search for duplicates or possible link between cases. We have shown you what we have developed using our tools to make this automation possible. So I will let Yawen speak and explain all the things more technically.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. So I will demonstrate how we developed the RPA and RCA bots to automate this PV process, of course using Automation Anywhere solutions. So first we received email with PV report as attachment from reporters. Here we can see my mailbox. Maybe you should start the demo. Okay, so
it started.
Okay, so there is two categories of PV form here in my mailbox. Those which are successfully completed with a form monetary information to create PV case. So like this one, there is a known adverse event, a known project, a known reporter who sometimes is a patient himself, and a known patient. So here you can see all the data has been correctly completed. And we also have forms with missing data or inconsistencies. So here I need to connect to IQBot to extract this data from this form. And we use Automation Anywhere IQBot. So I connect to IQBot right now. So we arrive to the dashboard. We can see metrics like precision, STP, which are the form directly processed without human intervention. And you can see here.
IQBot this is a RCA. This is a robotic cognitive automation. Okay.
From Automation Anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here I just switch my instance, my PV instance, to staging mode to show how I can train the bot. So you can modify the instance and add training to it. So here I have my bot, which reads the data from the PV form, and I will train the cognitive bot to extract data. So all you have to do here is to match the correct data from training form to the correct fields we want to extract. So here you can see patient last name, patient first name, which is Cyril Galbrin, patient sex, date of birth, and age, etc. There is a small table which contains the product. So we use the table repeated section from IQbot. You can see the extraction results from each training form. And if I see a problem in the data extraction, I just have to retrain the bot correctly. Here we can see the bot has been correctly trained. The product, the data has been correctly extracted from the form, and I can switch the form to look at the other extraction results. So let's let it load. Okay, now, so another training form, which is correctly completed.
So here we are on the training algorithm.
The training
okay, just to be clarified, okay?
So at the end, I go back to the training after seeing the result of the extraction. And all I have to do now is to save the training, and I will send the bot to production to use it in a common RPA task. Oh yeah, I just switch to production. I go to my bot. I see everything okay. And now I can go to the more common RPA automation anywhere solution. So the control room. We can see the dashboard with my metrics on creating bots. So I go to Webinar PV. It's my example. Here we have all the bots I developed for this use case. They will automate all the PV process, including data extraction, like this one. This bot, RPA bot, integrate IQbot, which is the algorithm we trained before, just before. So the task goes from email extraction and attachment extraction to more complex tasks like checking data or inserting data into the database. So every small box you see here is a small task that you can drag and drop to automate the process. And finally, we have the scheduling bot, which makes the link between all the different bots we have just seen. So here we launch the automation process. So I run the bot. It will run every task we just seen in the order. So mail extraction first, of course. And here we normally have a progression bar to the right. I will drag it. Here we go. Okay, so here's the progression bar. You can see progression of the task. So it goes kind of fast. To automate, we have in total 9 PV form to process. So the bot successfully processed all the PV form, and now it's time to see the result of the automation. So we can see that every attachment forms and mails have been saved in specific folders. Here are the forms, and here there are the mails. And now we are going to take a look at the correct forms input output in a simulated PV database. We use a Excel spreadsheet to simulate this database. And we are looking into my mailbox. I reload it to see that mails have passed from unread to read. So here I will click on my PV case I know Guy, Roux Alain. So Roux Alain is a patient, and his PV form is correctly added to the database, as we can see. We have his name, his first name, his sex, his weight, the reporter last name, first name, everything we can extract from the form is extracted into and inserted into the database. And a reported narrative is generated by the bot with the data we extracted from the document. So here we have the product. So I have the product. And now we are going to take a special case, Francis 4. So for Francis is a special case since there are two different products in the table, clopidogrel and ibuprofen. So we are searching for him in the database. Okay, there is a row. So because there are two products in this form, there will be two rows for the special case in the database. So here we have the clopidogrel and ibuprofen row completed. So that's for the correct forms. Here we have the narrative generated by the database, by the bots. We can now switch to error forms, which is forms that are not fully completed. So I will show you the email generation when a PV case does not meet the data consistency we do need. So we can see here the 4 emails generated by the RPA bot. And we can see it lists every error the reporter made in his PV form. So we'll look at every PV case to see what's wrong. So here we have a missing last name, missing first name, onset date is missing or incorrect, and patient age is missing. So we can see the corresponding email, which is the top one. And here another case where product's name is missing. So we can see the table row is not completed. Here another case where event description and on date are not set. So here we are, missing event description and onset date is not correct or missing. And finally, we can see there is an unknown product, so it's an error mistake. And event onset date is in the future. So here we go. The demonstration is over. I let you, Cyril, take the control again.
Okay, thank you, Yawen, for your presentation.
Do you have any question regarding this short demo? Thank you, Yawen. I mean, it's a classical application where you have automation and natural language processing. Okay, it's a new way to address this kind of issue. This is alliance with Robotic and IA to pass the document in a more efficient way. And basically, what we do, I mean, we train the algorithm. And when the algorithm is trained, then it's more efficient to analyze the form. Okay, we have a question. How frequently do you have to train the bot? Could you respond to that? And well, the other question is how you do validate your training. So the second question, how do you validate your training? Then we will address that on the presentation afterwards. But how frequently do you have to train the bot? Perhaps you can respond.
Yes, I do. So to train the bot, you just have to train it.
Do you have to train the bot?
Oh, just once. When you develop the bot and RCA step, you just go to IQbot and upload your forms, and then you match every data and field. And once this is done, if you have done it correctly, it's good, and you don't have to check it again. But in some case, you have a mistake on the first day of development. You can retrain it like 3 times in a week, but not more. After it's completed correctly, the bot is sufficient, and you don't have to retrain it.
Perhaps
However,
I can add my comment on this question.
Yes.
First, of course, the training data set is very important because the size of your training data set will have a direct impact on the quality of your training. And of course, once you have also the capability to monitor your algorithm, and if you see that while you're monitoring your algorithm and you see that the algorithm is not okay, or there's some divergence or whatever, then you can add some data to retrain. Okay. So I would say that there is a response in 2 parts. First, the response is regarding the size of the training data set. And then the response will be based on the monitoring of your algorithm. And there is some metric that you have to look after. And based on the metrics, if you see that your metrics, there's some divergence, then you can decide to retrain. Then I think we will discuss this very interesting question later on. I mean, on the webinar. I think it's right now, so later on.
Right.
I'm right. So thank you again for the question.
The example we have chosen to describe in this proof of concept and business case, has been chosen because it has several tasks and a simple cognitive bot use. There are more complex use of artificial intelligence, but for this kind of example, if the data set, as Philippe said, is large enough and with enough quality to make the bot see all kind of data he should learn to read, he will have no issue after the training to be able to understand all the input he will get. But it's a simple use of this kind of bot for this example. So in this case, if there is no change in the form or in the data, for example, the use of another kind of form that will make leads to another training, or maybe the creation of another creative bot, there is no necessarily needs of retraining. The only reason we have to retrain this kind of bot in this kind of situation, in this process, if it's only if we notice that the feedback provided by the indicators in the software show that the bot had issue understanding what is trying to read. But we have pop-up alerts or something like that that help the users managing the bots to see if the bot, the cognitive one, not on only this one, but all the different part of the chain of task. If there is any issues, the bot developer or the operator is able to be informed on that. So it can lead to modification or updates, but it's the same way that you can correct the software when it's displayed and you notice that in everyday use there is some issue raised by the production that was not being planned before. So let's have a look of how to adopt those tools to implement and validate robotic process automation and the cognitive automation. This transition is not spontaneous, and we have a lot of challenges arise for this transition, and what we can call the recruitment of the digital employees, the one that will repeat those automated tasks. We have to identify a process that is compatible with automation and provide a proof of concept within opportunity studies to be sure that there is an interest and technical possibility and an advantage to switch a process or a part of a process into automation. This transition update all the working environment, as I said before, because it redefines links between the tools, but also the people who use them. And there is an important support to the employee and also the working practices. But the main concern in this transition is how to qualify and to validate those tools. After having identified does RPA meet the needs we have in our processes, we have to be sure as any kind of high-tech software that the bots are and all the automated process is effective and safe, and we use we base on unusual computer system validation and a risk-based methodology, and try to implement robust control to be sure that everything is under control. And we have to ask all the good questions regarding the control framework, the availability, the security, but also, as in any high-tech software implemented in a GXP environment, all the change management and maintenance during the operation that have been to be looked at. But for this particular point, we have to point out the key points when the human intervention remains, because all the chain of tasks is not totally automated. So there are still activities that will involve human actions and in all the life cycle of the automation. We have focused on GMP approach for RPA, and we noticed that in different distinguishing different components of an automation that are the package of the product itself with its individual bots, but also the automation and the scripts we added to make it to make them working. They can be classified in different categories regarding the GMP. Individual bots are analogous to human operators that have to follow SOPs, but the script we add to make the automation is equivalent to small standalone custom applications. So respectively, both components of kind of components, they fall into the GMP category 1 and 5. In this approach, we have to focus on the prerequisites for a successful application of the deterministic part of the RPA. So we have to identify a stable process with clean data to be sure of the input and the output of the chain of task. And all the business rules have to be well defined and documented. All the life cycle of the automation and different steps of activities have to be looked at, and the intended use, the planning for the life cycle and the quality, and all definition of what is expected, what has to be done, and the different logic and the requirements. All those have to be specifically looked at to follow a GMP approach. And within a risk-based methodology of control, we can consider within the whole project and the life of the automation, that different concern, if it's RPA technology or RCA, they have to be looked at, and the adoption of a control framework to focus on an overall change management strategies, and to assess in which parts and the human acts in the process, and to ponder the balances of the interaction between the human worker and the digital employee, and lots of tests also to test the boundaries of the in life use of the bots. All the security-based controls have also been carefully looked at. The RCA includes a specific concern regarding the training data, and also the maintenance of how it will evolve with time, and but to be sure and to be confident that the outcome we expect will be the same with time, with a possible learning of new data by the cognitive bots, but also that the possible difference between what the bot will see in production that can differ from the data has been trained with.
So here, I mean, just to add a few words on, could we stay on the previous slide, Cyril, please?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So here we see the impact of the technology. Let's say that on APA, we are still on, let's say, on a customized application, on script. Okay, it is deterministic. There is no shift in terms of methodology. This is the way that we do IT and programming since years. On ACA, we are not programming, okay? The algorithm is learning, okay? Learning from what? From data, from training data. And here the shift is operating. So it's why here we have the shift in terms of validation. So we have to take care much more about the data, the training data, because the training data will determine how the algorithm will react. So here there's a clear shift between the way that we perform validation historically against user requirements. Here we perform validation against still user requirements, but also against data. Okay, because the data will determine the way of the algorithm will react. And of course, the beauty of IA is to continue to learn. So the maintenance here is more important because the maintenance provide new data, and this new data will have an impact on the tuning of the algorithm. So here we have the main difference of compliance approach between RPA and RCA. So that's interesting because, I mean, I'm sure you have heard about data integrity and all this stuff. So here we see the importance of data. Data becomes more and more and more important because data will drive the way some algorithm will react. That's my point. Thank you, Cyril. Maybe we can continue regarding the data and the ground truth, which is on the next slide.
Yes, also, but I will just summarize for this part that if it's regarding if it includes RPA or RCA for the deployment consideration, whatever the technology is chosen, and we just have to identify as usual the system boundaries and this functionality, and to make controls around them. So the main idea is not different from all kind of implementation of information technology in a GXP environment. I just wanted to add with that slide that all the automation does not mean that 100% of the activities became human-free. Previous slide, I talked about the balance between the human action and the automated task. For example, the involvement of subject matter experts that sometimes we call human in the loops are very important. For example, the constitution of the reference data, what we count the ground truth. This is some kind of gold standards of the data provided as let's say for example benchmark data from which the bots are learning. If it's a RPA solution only deterministic, it's the entry of instruction, but for artificial intelligence it became the most important part because when the efficiency the bot will get by learning, it will depend of how this ground truth is close to the real data the bot will meet when will be in production. During the training itself, the subject matter expert, they have to participate of reviewing the result provided by the bots. For example, if the bots have been trained with some data and after we test with another batch and we see that there is a gap between the prediction of the prediction of the bots and the reality of expected. For example, in the example shown by Yawen, if the bot is learned to read some letters on the picture and is reading another one, there is a review by an expert who can correct by tagging that no, you should have read a E instead of a, something like that. And approving and rejecting the prediction help the machine to learn. It's a simple example we have shown you, but for example, for some cognitive services that have been used in pharmacovigilance regarding the documentation, just to understand that the word can be put into different kind of categories, like oh, this is regarding the product, or this is regarding to the adverse events. This kind of tagging is provided for in the learning batch, but in the test batch of the data, during the validation, the master expert has to watch if the bot will learn and if it's efficient. So during the whole life of a bot, and especially if it includes cognitive technology, there is still a subject matter expert that is involved in his learning, validation, and also his monitoring. The validation itself can use usual computerized system validation methodology with requirements, functional specification, from which we define associated risk and mitigation measures. This is an example we can see on screen. It's an extract from the table we made for a proof of concept in automation, and all. So it's very close to the risk-based methodology usual, but for this kind of technology, we really have spotted a difference between two kinds of automated tasks. The one that is involve a task that involves involving deterministic functionalities, the one that are rule-based and implemented with a very only logics, and it's testable in all situations. It works or it doesn't work. So you have to use unit nominal test for the function and to use integration tests to see if the sequence of function is effective. But for the learning-based functionalities, using in cognitive boards that use reference data in training and learning, it's not testable in all situations because it will really change with the real data, and maybe if it's a continuously learning technology, and we can use statistical analysis for the validation after assessing the robustness of the training data to be sure that the bots have been properly learned with a representative data of what you will meet in real life. The testing with unseen data to assess the effectiveness of the bots, it has to be scored and put with some acceptance threshold. This kind of scoring been shown by Yawen on his demonstration. The assessment of efficiency, if you can see on a screenshot from the IQbot board, there is a lot of indicators showing the different kind of measurement and scores, comparing the prediction of what the training and can help the bot predict, but assess with the actual data. We can define a lot of mathematical scores that often used in machine learning, artificial intelligence technology that can assess if the AI model as well learn, if able to have some kind of percentage of true positive or false negative and false positive. And all these kind of scores, mathematically defined scores, we can define a threshold from which the cognitive bot is considered well successfully trained if it's able to predict really what is learned. And the validation of the model for some kind of data that is in very high mode, large quantity of data. We cannot check every test data, so the manual review and evaluation of the results during the validation by a subject matter expert, we can use some sampling approach for large volume, like the acceptance quality limit that is used for production inspection in production. It helps to determine the size of random samples and acceptability criteria, and it meets the GXP regulation requirements for sampling of large amounts of data. It has been used for some tests in artificial intelligence within pharmacovigilance to be able to assess the quality of learning and the validation of the efficiency of some cognitive services in pharmacovigilance. So it can be used for cognitive bots to validate the testing with large amounts of data that the bot is effective and the risks are handled. In a larger way, the validation of artificial intelligence, not only in cognitive bots, raise a lot of questions. So with the time when the rising of technology that will be included in automation can leads to a lot of question, and all the question are raised in a matter of validation for our concern of GXP environments and all the importance of the change management and how we will manage and all the continuously learning systems that can be modified with time and change their behavior by new learnings. Because if we use what we can call locked algorithm, like in the previous case we saw in the demonstration, this kind of bots we can lock after the learning, and the cognitive bot will still behave the same after this training. But for some kind of cognitive system that especially with some technology that are increasing, like deep learning, all kind of self-learning technologies, in this kind of time, there is a lot of modification in algorithm architecture, and also lots of retraining with new datasets provided by the system itself or by new inputs. And we can wonder how to manage and control the risk that result from this kind of modification of in a continuously learning system. And we have spotting that the modification of this kind of AI machine learning software is meant to have an improvement in the performance of the service, but also it can allow to have to be able to manage new inputs or sometimes be a change of incident use. We have seen that in some medical devices that were only advising for diagnosis, but with this learning skill, it's used for real diagnosis. And in the field of medical devices, the FDA are already starting to ask themselves a good question, has proposed a framework that is at these days in discussion since last year for a best practice approach of how to validate this kind of continuously learning system. And with time, if we could be a concern from our cognitive bots. And the FDA have emphasis of what you can call the good machine learning practices. This is a kind to the good software engineering practices and quality system practices, and focusing of the, as we've seen before, that the relevance of data, how to manage the data sets, and also to be transparent. What you can see on the screen is how they have in mind some kind of total product life cycle approach for medical device that includes machine learning and technology. They have think about that for their software as a medical device that they ask for to have the pre-market, for which they ask pre-market submission. But these good machine learning practices focusing on each step, like data management or the extraction, training, and evaluation of the data, are not far from the one we used to. It also emphasizes that the real-world performance monitoring, to be sure that to notice and to look at how the continually learning system behave with real-world data. He also have introduced some kind of interesting thing he called the predetermined change control plan, because for its submission for this AI-based and machine learning software as medical device, he asked for the manufacturer to be able to spot in advance while submitting their devices if they can predict what the algorithm is intended to become as it learns, what is called a software pre-specification that can try to anticipate the modification, potential changes around the initial specification with we can say the learning curve of the machine learning model. And this kind of pre-specification is followed by strategy and methodology which has to be used to control and manage the risk around this modification. A lot of points and components in all parts of the activity that meets the machine learning software, and to be controlling how the algorithm will learn with time. So it's still health authorities are still not really providing clear guidance of how to manage, but the FDA proposed this framework in case of machine learning based medical devices that help us to have this concern regarding validation, because this idea of anticipation of what the algorithm will become and how it will do that help during the validation process of the cognitive bots to, if in case the cognitive bot is not locked and it will still for is efficiency, if it needs to learn more and to change over time, it will help us to shape the requirements of new validation. If we can control and validate this kind of changes and if the changes are far or that diverge from this kind of predetermined change control plan, it can lead to further validation or not. So it's an approach that helps to have different concepts about how to manage and to all the risk-based validation we have to add in this new technology when it's not just simple deterministic RPA, but also the machine learning one. So maybe I can let Philippe explain the service provided by.
Yes, but we have before we jump to the service that we provide, I have another poll.
Yes.
So I launched the poll if people would like to respond to the poll regarding validation. Okay, if everybody would like to vote, please, just to have a more significant result. I think there are still some people who didn't have pay attention to the poll yet. Okay, that's interesting. But may I get the last people to vote? Can give a few seconds. Yes. Okay, we are almost 90% participation right now. So there's probably somebody who missed, but okay. So I'm going to close the poll and to share it. Okay. So is validation a hurdle to digital GXP worker? And the response is yes. Okay. So it's not surprising because as Cyril explained, the technology change imply a change in terms of validation approach. Again, with this the data, so the key role played by the data and the algorithm, which is locked or not unlocked. This change plan, which is not a new concept for urgent virus fixes, for example. We have typically these kind of things. Okay, we have a pre-approval change plan. So people, when something occurs, they already know how to perform, and also there's sometimes some pre-approval change. So this is just an adaptation to the way data can be used to retrain the algorithm. Okay, so what we do at ADN, we have different kind of services. First, we try to help you to list business case candidates and to determine what would be the most suitable for your organization. Why would you propose this kind of services? Because it's difficult for customers who don't have the knowledge about the capability of this kind of technology to imagine some business case, because they are not yet fully aware. Okay, so it's why there's value to have a discussion about what can be your next digital worker in your company. Okay. So we start to try to explain the concept, to explain the already existing business case on the pharma, and then we have this discussion and say, okay, yes, it makes sense for PV, or yes, it makes sense for batch release, or yes, it makes sense for batch review or auditor review, or there's ETMF review. I mean, there's a lot of potential business case. But however, I mean, we need to prove that it works. So we provide this second type of services, which is business case proof of concept. Or once we have elected a business case, then we define more accurately the intended use and the benefit expected for the business case. And we install a bot platform. We set up the bot using, for example, a TaskBot and IQBot technology to prove that it works. And when it works, then we address also if it is a GXP bot, we address validation, how we are going to apply validation, how we leverage, I mean, the already FDA guideline or drive guideline existing. We talk about good machine learning practicing, but also all this stuff regarding computer system assurance actually running on the background. So there is opportunity to find a more suitable validation approach that only URS, functional risk assessment, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then also we provide service regarding business case deployment and monitoring, just to maintain the compliance, but also to maintain the operation of the bot. This is what we are doing, and we offer in a project management way. We use agile approach using Jira and Confluence to set up this kind of approach. And if you have suggestion or comment or question, I think we will be very pleased to try to respond. So if you have any question, don't be too shy. You just raise your hand, virtual hand, or set up a question using your the GoToWebinar system, and then we'll be happy to respond or try to respond. So if there is some question, it's time. So if you have any question, yes, I got one. Okay, can you share your web address? Yes, of course. Now, so it's adn.fr, but this topic is not on our website. Okay, but I'm going to respond you on the. Okay, this is something that we need to address to set up on your website. Okay, any other question? Regarding IQBot, OQBot. Okay, what are our link with Automation Anywhere? So, I mean, we are partnering with Automation Anywhere. Okay, Automation Anywhere is one of the leader. Okay, we are not working only with Automation Anywhere. Okay, but to understand and to propose a real pragmatic approach, okay, we need to be aware about this kind of platform. Okay, so we are a partner from Automation Anywhere, as we are partnering with other company, as Amazon Web Services and Dassault System, The way for us it's to be hands-on and to be able to deliver the promise regarding this topic. But we are still independent. Okay. Any other question? Hello, hello. Any question? No more question. Okay. So if there is no more question, I would like to thank you very much, everybody, to stay online for 1 hour and a half. I hope that you will have learned something. Okay. If you have any question, feel free to ask and send email, and we will. I will be very happy to share our information with you and try to bring progress in this industry. Thank you very much, and I will respond to the people who just send me some private question here. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Yawen. Thank you, Cyril, for this hard work to prepare this new topic.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. See you soon for perhaps the next webinar. We will try to find another business case and just to try to continue to communicate. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Thank you.